Hello and welcome. Today, once again, we will talk about developing an effective ethics program for any organization, for any industry. This is Chapter 8. We will be using the presentation slides to help you see some of the concepts that are very critical and related to the development of a good ethics program that can be very practical and useful in guiding employees' behavior according to the standards that you as a manager set or your organization has set for everybody to align with. There is some evidence empirically that shows that the most common employee observed forms of misconduct at Fortune 500 companies tend to include the fact that people conduct personal business on company time, abusive behaviors in the workplace, lying to employees. Think about the consequences of lying to your employees. Discrimination. You can lose a discrimination lawsuit and be fined with millions and millions of dollars. And then health and safety violations, as well as company resource abuse and internet abuse in the workplace. So these are some of the common misconducts that have been observed in these large corporations. The goal of an ethics program should be to help deter or avoid and prevent these problems from happening. There are some minimum requirements for ethics compliance programs, which could include the fact that there should be some standards and procedures, such as codes of ethics that are reasonably capable of detecting and preventing misconduct. You should have high-level personnel who are responsible for an ethics and compliance program. These people should be respected, these people should be influential, and they should be good role models as well as have some power to enforce the standards. Third, there should be no substantial discretionary authority given to individuals for a propensity for misconduct. 4, standards and procedures should be communicated effectively via ethics training programs. 5, systems to monitor, audit, and report misconduct should be there for ongoing basis. 6, there should be consistent enforcement of standards, codes, and there should be punishment for those who obviously are involved in a misconduct or violation of the rules. 7, there should be the continuous improvement process in place to make your ethics program and its compliance better and better at all times. The U.S. government has actually penalized many corporations for misconduct. Some examples of penalties for corporate misconduct include the fact that WorldCom had a penalty of $750 million for accounting fraud. Goldman Sachs had $550 million penalty for misleading investors. Fannie Mae had a $400 million penalty for accounting fraud, similar to Time Warner, which had $300 million fine. And JP Morgan Securities had almost $300 million fine for misleading their investors. Quest had a $250 million fine for accounting fraud, and Bank of America had a $150 million fine for misleading investors. In Credit Suisse Group had almost a $200 million fine for violating federal securities laws. So your job as ethics officers and as consultants is to create an ethics programs that prevent misconduct in the first place. So it does not happen, because even if it's not discovered by the government, chances are some employees, some customers, some vendors are hurt by your decision or the decisions of those individuals who are involved in unethical and misconduct behaviors. What are some of the benefits of having an ethics code? We can say that a comprehensive code of ethics can actually guide employees in situations where the ethical course of action is not immediately obvious to a person or to the naked eye. We know that a comprehensive code of conduct can help the company to reinforce and acquaint new employees with its culture, with their values. A code can help create a climate of integrity, a climate where everybody's striving toward excellence at all times. It can help the company communicate its expectations for its staff, to suppliers, vendors, and to their customers. A comprehensive ethics code minimizes subjective and inconsistent standards on the part of the management. It can help a company remain in compliance with very complex regulations that are coming into the industry or to the organization. Having an ethics code help a company remain in compliance. Having an ethics code build public trust and enhance business reputation. An ethics code can also help protect and reduce your fines when a violation does occur, or when an employee sues the organization, or when an institution sues an organization for hurting the community or violating a specific law. And ethics code tends to enhance the morale of employees, their pride, their loyalty, and the recruitment of outstanding employees as future managers and leaders for your organization. And ethics code tend to promote constructive social change by raising awareness of the community's needs and encouraging employees and other stakeholders to help and assist to be a productive member in the community and contribute whenever they can. And finally, an ethics code promote market efficiency, especially in areas where laws are weak or inefficient, by rewarding the best and most ethical producers of various goods and services in our communities, in the nation, and hopefully in a global environment. What are the different codes of conduct types? There's code of ethics, which is most comprehensive and consists of general statements, sometimes altruistic or even inspirational statements that serve as principles and as basis for rules of conduct within the organization. It generally specifies methods for reporting any violations, disciplinary action for violations, in a structure of due process. There are 6 values that are desirable for codes of ethics: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and finally, citizenship behaviors. Besides codes of ethics, you also have code of conduct, which is more like a regulatory set of rules, tends to elicit less debate about specific actions. So what are some of the reasons for why these codes of ethics and codes of conduct tend to fail? Well, oftentimes they're not promoted, so employees don't necessarily read it by themselves. They're not always easily accessible. They're written too legalistically by lawyers. They're written with vague statements and words, providing no accurate direction. And top management never refers to the code in body or to the spirit. They're not role modeling what the code actually says. So these are some of the main reasons why these codes of ethics and codes of conduct programs tend to fail. There's also a statement of values. These are conceived by management, fully developed with input from all stakeholders, specifically employees who are impacted by the decisions on a day-to-day basis. The terms code of ethics and statements of values are often used interchangeably in literature and in organizations. When developing and implementing a code of ethics, do consider areas of risk and state the values as well as conduct that is necessary to comply with laws and with regulations. Values are an important buffer in preventing serious misconduct. Identify values that specifically address current ethical issues in the organization or in the industry. Consider values that link the organization to stakeholder orientation. Try to attempt to find overlaps in organizational and stakeholder values. Make the code understandable by providing examples that reflect the organization's values, that uses simple language. Communicate the code frequently in a language that employees can actually understand, so they can retain it, so they can make decisions not just today when they recall it, and not just tomorrow when they can still recall it, but 6 months down the road, a year down the road. So help them not only understand it, but tend to recall it for long-term application. Finally, revise the code every year or periodically with input from all employees and all stakeholders in the organization. What are ethics officers' responsibilities? They tend to assess the risks an organization-wide ethics program must address. They develop as well as distribute the code of conduct or the code of ethics to all employees and relevant stakeholders outside of the organization. Sometimes they conduct training programs, or at least have a lot of input in what the trainers must include in those programs. They establish and maintain confidential services to answer employees' ethical concerns and questions. They make sure that the company is in compliance with the laws of the city, the state, and the nation. They monitor and audit ethical conduct. The ethics officers take action on code violations, and they review and update the code on an ongoing basis and whenever necessary. The key goals of successful ethics programs should be identified right at the beginning. First, identify key risk areas employees will face in doing their day-to-day jobs. Provide experience in dealing with the hypothetical or disguised ethical issues within the industry through many cases, through online challenges, through DVDs, or other experiential learning opportunities that your organization can afford or can implement easily. Let employees know wrongdoing will never be supported in the organization, and employee evaluations will take their conduct in this area into consideration. This is because what you measure tends to get results. Let employees know that they're individually accountable for their behavior. Align employee conduct with organizational reputation and the organization's overall branding. Provide ongoing feedback to employees about how they're handling ethical issues. Allow a mechanism for employees to voice their concern that is anonymous but provides answers to key questions. Maybe 24-hour hotlines with an outside consultant might be a good way to go. Provide a hierarchy of leadership for employees to contact when they're faced with an ethical dilemma that they do not know how to resolve, especially when they feel uneasy in talking to their immediate boss. There should be an opportunity for them to report it to higher ups, because sometimes employees have difficulty talking to their immediate boss for fears of retaliation. So there should be some guarantee that people who bring honest concerns to the attention of the top managers, that they will not be retaliated against. There should be systems to monitor and to enforce ethical standards. How employees handle ethically charged situations should be discussed. You should have role plays and exercises for monitoring and enforcing ethical standards. There should be discussion regarding ethical issues and dilemmas. You should have questionnaires or surveys. There should be internal systems that allow employees to report any misconduct immediately. And hopefully you'll have consultants that deal with this so they can see things from an outside perspective, where material can sometimes remain confidential. You can have case management services and even software as part of your monitoring and enforcement of ethical standards in the organization. The common mistakes in designing and implementing ethical programs include failure to understand and appreciate the goals, setting unrealistic and unmeasurable program objectives, senior management fails to take ownership of the ethics program, developing program material that do not address the needs of the average employee in their current day-to-day tasks, transferring an American program to a company's international subsidiary or department outside of the US, designing an ethics program that is little more than just a series of lectures. So what people sometimes hear goes out the other ear simply because there's no reinforcement of the material and there's no actual training to deter wrongdoing. Remember to encourage employees to think critically for themselves and to practice and exercise the core values in the code of conduct and the code of ethics that your organization provides for them onto their day-to-day basis so they can make decisions that are fully aligned with your ethics statements, with your code of conduct, with your ethics program overall in the standards. Good luck. Remember that ethical behavior is a skill. So you need to police, evaluate, and improve your ethical muscles every single day so you can manage and guide others effectively in your department, in your organization, and in society in general. Good luck.